Clarita here, and I've got a new sponsor, DistroKid. If you want to release your music into the world, DistroKid's the easiest way to get your music into all the major streaming platforms, unlimited uploads, and keep 100% of your royalties. And because you're a Design Freaks listener, you get 30% off. Go to distrokid.com/VIP/designfreaks. DistroKid. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Design Freaks podcast. This is a show where I talk about music industry, art and design, record covers, graphic designers, and music history. My name's Clarita. I'm your host. I am a graphic designer in Seattle, Washington. So I have a very special deluxe two-part episode for you today. It's a double feature starring me and my friend Travis, who is a fellow music nerd and fabulous artist. He's going to be joining me in just a second so we can talk about Paul Reubens. Paul Reubens, the character Pee Wee Herman, all of the punk rock connections, and his creative impact on all of us. But yeah, lots of punk connections to Pee Wee's Playhouse. And then after that, you're going to hear some harpsichords. No, you're just going to hear a harp. It's going to catapult you into a portal back to December of 2020. Boy, were we full of life. Honestly, like the beginning of this is like we're reflecting, we're talking about Paul Reubens, and it's great. It's also very fun, but the show will leave you on a cheerful note because I guess Paul Reubens was still alive, and I don't know why we sounded so... I had so many opinions, and what happened? I don't know. But yeah, we're going to talk about the passing of the mastermind of all of these three album designers I talk about in part 2, the one from episode 25. That original episode was about the three main album art designers who worked in some way on Pee Wee's Playhouse, and it's Gary Panter, Wayne White, and Phil Hartman, who also co-wrote Pee Wee's Big Adventure. Lots of connections. Okay, but before I invite Travis to join me today, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoy the show, please share with other vinyl and design freaks. Rate, review, subscribe, leave a 5-star review, wherever. Check out the website, designfreakspodcast.com. I am @_designfreakspodcast on Instagram. You can find everything else in the old link tree. For other music-related podcasts, check out ruinousmedia.com. Oh, and check out the show notes for a link to the full YouTube of the crazy version of Deacon Blues at the end of the episode. I included that. There is a reason I included it. I will explain it in the episode, but you have to see the entire YouTube video, so check that weirdness out. Let's get right to it. Travis, hello? Are you there? Hello? Travis? Hello?
Hi, Clarita.
Hi. Thank you for joining me again for the third time.
Yeah.
On the Design Freaks program.
Love it.
Yeah, it's so fun to have you on always. Let's list the episodes. First was Peter Saville.
Peter Saville.
Then what was the second one?
Pee Wee Herman.
Pee Wee. So this is part 2 of the Pee Wee's Playhouse, I guess, or a revisit to pay homage to Paul Reubens, who passed. This was originally called the Gary Panter / Pee Wee's Playhouse episode. It was all about the 3 album artists who were Pee Wee's Playhouse adjacent: Gary Panter, Wayne White, and Phil Hartman. We talked mostly about them, but I wanted to, now that Paul Reubens has passed and everyone's kind of reflecting on how much impact he made, wanted to go back and kind of talk about what started it all, the mastermind behind everything, who was Paul Reubens the character Pee Wee Herman. And for listeners, the second half of this will be much of the original episode, episode
Gotcha.
25 from December 2020.
I can't believe it was that long ago.
I know. Thank God that's over with. What a nightmare. I mean, more nightmares to come, I'm sure. But that specific one is done. A lot of it stinks of the pandemic, so I'll probably whittle it down to what we want people to know now. And so any initial thoughts? You did like a diagram I want to put on the screen because it is such a nonlinear phenomenon.
I was at camp last week when I found out the news, and we did a lot of reflecting on like kind of where Paul Reubens and kind of Pee Wee's Playhouse, how that really kind of like shaped our weird little minds, especially for for people of our age. Like I was like 5 years old when Pee Wee's Playhouse came out, so like I was the prime target. I've been thinking so much about it over this last week, where how he really kind of brought all of these like little pieces all together. How he worked with various, he worked with Gary Panter, he worked with Wayne White, he worked with Phil Hartman, all people it very unique to and have their own unique style, and how it kind of became this like kitchen sink of creativity and just kind of, he managed to make something that was so like we were talking about, so timeless, but not completely out of time. Like you can't really say that this could have taken place in the 50s, despite there being googie and like those weird asymmetrical deep pieces. But he had the pterodactyls, he had like things that just like, he had robots, so it was in the future, but it was also like taking pieces of the past. And I don't know, I think that it really kind of created such a unique perspective, and how he incorporated so many different styles of different types of media and animation styles. It was a mess of ideas that really like felt really cohesive.
Yeah, and getting back to, he brought outcasts together. He brought the freaks together, and he brought out the best in each one of them. I wanted to talk a little bit first about his beginnings with the Groundlings.
Well, as far as I know, that's where he really like adapted his comedic chops for this character that he kind of like was fleshing out and workshopping. And he, at that time there were so many actors and actresses, up and comers, that were just part of this Groundlings like improv troupe, and who were along for the ride with him, and like took on co-writing credits and acting credits, and like participated. And he, as far as I don't know how long was doing that at the Groundlings, but like it moved to the Roxy. There's like shows at the Roxy on Sunset, and was really kind of really active in the kind of experimental performance theater, in a weird way. Like that ties into, in this strange way with like Tomata Du Plenty, and like
right,
like all of this stuff with the Coquettes, and the stuff that Tomata did. Like these were fringe people, very outcast. Like there was, he worked so closely with like Jambi and like Lorraine, what's her face? I saw a picture of Lorraine from Saturday Night Live. Like they were all part of the Groundlings.
Right.
And so, it's
Lorraine
really,
Newman?
what's that?
Was that Lorraine Newman?
Lorraine Newman, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, to think about like Phil Hartman would go on to SNL, Lorraine would be on, she was on SNL for a number of years, like develop these bit actors who became all these very wild characters, and he had a place for them to be this, in Phil Hartman's case, Kap'n Karl, like some swashbuckler, like sailor man,
who designed the Steely Dan album Asia, which was re-released today or something, or it was announced today that it's remastered and re-released. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? What a weird coincidence. So bizarre. So you all will see or hear or both a video at the end of this episode, which the original episode was audio only. I'm going to try to include the entire video because it's nuts and you need to see it. And it's not AI generated. It's an actual person 3D crafted this weird nightmare and then put the Steely Dan song through some kind of electronic cheese grater, and it sounds amazing. Anyways, yeah, so with Phil Hartman's character, we're talking like experimental comedy, making it into everyone's living room. Mm-hmm. Like the weird, like the degrees of separation between Tomata from the Screamers and Randy from Pee-wee's Playhouse. It blows my mind how close those things were and how far apart those cultures were.
Yeah. I mean, Wayne White wasn't a punk, but he was Gary Panter was like very active in the underground music scene and
right,
putting his art in every kind of way, and in this kind of messy and disheveled sort of fashion, that just stood out. Let's go, my baby. Let's go, my baby. Let's go from here. My baby, let's go. My baby, let's go. My baby, let's go.
Wayne White's like a country boy.
Yeah.
Plays the banjo. But Gary Panter, and also what I love about all three of these designers, something we were talking about earlier, is that these three people run the gamut of album cover design, and that these are the three main types of album cover design that I cover on this podcast. So you have Phil Hartman, who was strictly a designer, like in-house somewhere. I forget. I mean, he did the Steely Dan cover we talked about. And the Killer Clowns. Was it called Killer Clowns? There were two main ones.
He did Coco?
The Fire Sign Theater, Fighting Clowns.
Oh, right. That's actually one of my uncle's favorite. That was his favorite act in when he was in high school. He loved Fire Sign Theater. He still talks about them on Facebook.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
No.
I think we talked about it in the first episode too.
Oh yeah, probably. My dad had Fire Sign Theater records.
Whoa, I had never heard of them before this episode, and yeah. But I'm guessing Phil did not do the painting. I'm guessing he did the layout and the graphic design part. So he's strictly graphic design. Then you have Wayne White, who is primarily an artist. He's a painter, but his style lends itself so well because of his brilliant use of typography, lends itself to album cover design. And then he recently he painted something for an X album cover.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was their X's most recent record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what else, but I know there are others. And then you have Gary Panter, who is like both, can do everything, and is amazing and extremely prolific. And that's why the original episode was titled Gary Panter / Pee-wee because it was mostly about him and his life. So we won't go over that now. But this kind of the thing that Paul Reubens was so good at was creating community and creating a space for all these weirdos to like play in.
Whatever the art and music scenes, like those, everything in that time, everyone was doing everything, you know.
Right.
And it seems like one of those kind of just like right place, right time for, you know. I mean, I doubt that Paul Reubens was a big Screamers fan, but very well could have and seen that. And you know, you never know. Like, probably could have seen a Screamers performance, and when he was, you know, just really young in Hollywood. It's just really fascinating to me, like how they all came together and how they're all each unique vision kind of made this iconic thing, you know, like with the crooked door and like weird asymmetrical windows and like, you know, all kinds of various pattern work and on the walls, just like looks, you know, just every bit like just color and so saturated,
saturated, glitter, texture. I mean, everywhere you look, it's too much everywhere, and it's like that's what you want.
Right.
It's satisfying, but it's dizzying at the same time. And I just also, did you see the Mosswood Meltdown Festival in Oakland recently? They made a whole Pee-wee's Playhouse stage. You should look it up.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Did you go to that?
No, I didn't go this time, but it looked really fun. And that stage, they did a really good job building that stage. So check that out. But I wanted to talk about, we were also comparing and contrasting the worlds of Pee-wee's Big Adventure versus the Playhouse. So you're starting to describe the inside of the Playhouse, but earlier today I was like, do I remember the theme, the beginning, as well as I think? And I kind of didn't. I remember the beaver, you know, in the very beginning, and I remember the song, but there's a lot of detail there. There's a weird detail. It's like there's a beaver. It feels prehistoric, like you were saying, like prehistoric. There's like caw, or, you know, whatever. And then, and then there's a beaver chopping down a tree. And then there's like a lawnmower and a little lawn, like there's almost a hint of suburbia. And then you go through and you kind of fly over and you see this misty, knoll.
I would say it's a knoll.
It's a knoll. I mean, a rocky. It's a little craggy and rocky as well. I don't know if that qualifies. But
he could have been next door neighbors with Fred Flintstone.
It could have. Okay, so that's what I was going to say, because I was remembering the house being super futuristic, but actually when I paid more attention, part of it is the Flintstones house. Part of it is a regular suburban house. It's like three things put together. And then the other part, the front, is like a 50s diner. And then the top has that weird Sphinx on it.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about this Sphinx.
You know, and then, so it's got some elements, but the 50s diner also does look kind of futuristic because that's what they were going for back then. Right, so it does have that. So, yeah, it is out of time. And it's like misty and confusing. And then you zoom in and then it's Pee-wee and then the song starts. But yeah, that beginning was so like magical, and it set the tone that this place, it exists in another dimension. Like this is not Earth or something. So you get in there and there's a lot going on. There's every little corner is a vignette where a different scene can happen. Like instead of being a skit show where you have different sets, it's one set with different vibes everywhere, which I think is cool, because we were talking about what else was weird back then. Like, was this the only thing we had? And then we were like, no, the other part, the other weirdness in the zeitgeist was you can't do that on television. And they had crazy stuff going on. They didn't have puppets.
No,
I don't remember them.
they were more like Monty Python for kids.
Right, exactly. That is what because I remember the graphics were Monty Python
Yeah.
graphics. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but they had different scenes, characters that would come back over and over. But it was weird and it was subversive and strange and for kids only, it wasn't really, or it was from the perspective of kids. But yeah, Pee-wee was the big one. Like, where would we be? Who would we all be without Paul Reubens?
Boring. I mean, like I think that like he allowed our imaginations to really kind of see what was possible and what you could do, or like how he would take claymation and like make little dinosaurs like walk around, and like, or like lots of puppetry, and like in different styles of puppetry, where you have flowers that are in the windowsill, or you have like fish that are on little wires in a fish tank, or like you had all these different things, and like the early animation stuff with the King of Cartoons, like showing some cartoon that you would never otherwise see. He pulled these really obscure animated shorts. Claymation was going off at that time.
Oh,
so
it was
see a lot of that.
The food in the fridge was my absolute favorite. Just the creativity is mind blowing. But yeah, those old skeleton cartoons, man, those were cute. Playing their ribs like the xylophone.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So puppetry, stop motion, design, old cartoons, connect the dots. We were talking about DIY tutorials. You could learn a thing or two on each episode.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it definitely, like, with the connect the dots, that showed me what I needed to do, that you can make an image just simply by creating dots like as an outline, and then you could go back and you could make your own connect the dots and to make an image. And like, when I was a kid, I was like obsessed with that stuff. I was like, how do you do this? And it's like, oh, you just put tracing paper on the top of it, and you make your dots on top of that, and then you can create your lines.
Yeah.
And get a semblance of what it was. I don't know. It's just like the music that just sounds, and just like, it was so sensory.
Very.
That not a lot of other shows had, where it had quiet moments. And even Pee-wee's character he was really quiet, but he was loud.
Yeah.
Like he had these, like, he had the tone. He had the way to set a tone to really keep people engaged.
Hell yeah, he knew how. Yes, we talked about you can't do that on television. It's also an expansion of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. But Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood is so sleepy and so gentle and calm. And this was like, fuck that. We're going to let off a T-shirt cannon of creative insanity into your face, into your living room.
Yeah.
And it just was so inspiring. And plus, knowing the history of Wayne White and how he works with cardboard and does things that like anyone can do if you just think of it. And he just thought of it and was compelled to, and then took the paintings he does with the thrift store artwork that he how would you say he inserts? I don't even know how to describe them. I mean, he
I mean, in NSA, just like embellishes it, or remixes like an existing piece of, thrift store art. and embellishes it with his own style of typography and language.
Oh, I have the examples I can show everybody. If you're not watching the YouTube, you should.
Ooh. Here's where I pick my nose.
Okay. Show and tell. So this is something I got from Wayne White's merch shop. It's a picture frame, and it's in Wayne White fashion. It is cardboard, which I love about it, because watch, for the audience, we probably talk about this in the original episode, but watch Beauty is Embarrassing. It's a documentary about him, and it'll tell you everything you need to know. But here, the frame has interchangeable pieces inside. So I'm just going to show the audience, just flip through some of these. The next one is like an ocean cliff, and he's painted the word ape shit in stars and stripes.
Yeah.
We got a clusterfuck.
So
we got
pretty.
A turd.
The letters are, it's just so beautifully done that it's like turd in the forest. Like it looks
And it
beautiful.
Looks like,
the word
it looks like
turd.
these two people are gazing at it.
It's true.
Like they're looking at the cherry blossoms, but he put it between them and the cherry blossoms. He's so funny. Unlike. Yeah. And he has the reflection in the water. Okay. And now you just have to look at the YouTube. WTF with ducks. All right. So what people should do, go watch Pee-wee's Playhouse again. Listen to the Screamers. Watch the Wayne White documentary. Is there a Gary Panter documentary?
Not that I've seen. I mean, I'm sure that there's some sort of YouTube documentary. Someone has had to have, like, but I haven't seen anything. His work is also so like embedded in, like with the Red Hot Chili Peppers, with, that was my introduction to Gary Panter, and like only years later, like I watched Pee-wee's Playhouse, I had no idea.
Yeah. Nobody knew. I mean, none of us our age.
Yeah, I mean, like we weren't paying attention to this minutia of details and why things were the way they were. It was just they were.
And the funny thing is, all of these connected things were around us at the same time, but it's like with Barney Bubbles, like there's no way we could have known that, that and that was done by the same person. Let's talk a little bit about Fatima Records with a Z. This was a Los Angeles record label. They released not only, we'll talk about the Pee Wee Herman Show record, which they released, but also the Plugs and a band called The Brat.
Then there's something called Jimmy, which is like some children's songs. Non-music children. It's the same year as in 82.
Oh, wow.
It's just such a, but most of them were a couple albums, but mostly singles and EPs. But 6 releases total.
Interesting.
And that's it.
And the Pee Wee Herman Show was one of them. And I can't tell. Okay. Are you looking at the Discogs?
Yeah.
So if you look, the cover, it's such a cool idea. So it's an interactive design where the cover is transparent, yes?
It looks like it's silk screen on the outside and then has the disc.
The disc is a picture disc that when you put it on top of the cover completes the image.
Yes.
Because the cover itself has a missing Pee-wee in it. And it's very cool. I'll put this up on the screen. And then also the picture disc itself. Yep, it is a clear picture disc. And then the liner notes, which are pretty fascinating, that list. And really skillful, actually, to draw to write in the same size the whole way down and take up exactly that one 12 by 12 square.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty good. Kudos to Gary Panter or whoever at Fatima was tasked with this. Did you want to go over some of these people on the list here?
I mean, I guess we did. We did Phil Hartman, John Paragon, who was Zombie.
Right. Yeah, okay. Pee-wee's Playhouse is one of the songs. Good Morning Song, A Sailor's Life, Most Beautiful Woman in Puppet Land, Ballad of Hermit Hattie, Rub the Top of Zombie's Box, which sounds dirty. I gotta go. Oh yeah, I gotta go.
It probably was dirty. It probably was because this is a club performance at the Roxy.
Oh yeah, this was
June of '81
TV show exactly. And his play ran for 5 years, right?
Yes, I believe so. It had multi-night stints and I think that it would continually evolve, but a lot of the same players were Nicole Panter.
Oh.
There's a Nicole Panter that's part of the cast.
Huh. Okay, so then I Gotta Go Be By Myself / Call Me Miss Bungle. We were wondering, since this came out in 81, if that inspired Mr. Bungle. And then He's Gotta Get His Wish, His Way, What He Wants, with an apostrophe S for some reason. Luckiest Boy in the World, and Voolery Pee-wee. And then I'm also seeing Robert Williams listed. He's an experimental drummer.
Williams is doing drums, percussion, courtesy of A&M Records.
Oh, he played with Captain Beefheart.
Oh, okay.
Wow, the connections, folks.
Oh.
What?
Nicole Panter is Gary Panter's ex-wife.
Uh-huh.
Script editor and fiction writer. She managed the Germs.
Another connection. The Germs.
So, yeah, Nicole Panter was in Decline of Western Civilization.
Okay.
She was a character in the Pee Wee Herman show.
Got it.
Yeah.
So
Nicole, Gary, that's how they all lined up. It seems like it would make sense if Gary Panter had done some set design or some sort of creation of the show itself, mm-hmm. but was also just so visual, did the artwork for that Pee Wee Herman show. That is wild.
That's wild.
After 80 retirement from punk rock, she became an actor and writer, the Pee Wee Herman show, script editor, author. Yeah, okay. So she got out of the punk rock thing in 1980. And then, she was probably already... I was married to Gary Panter. We were involved in the art scene, too. I'd outgrown punk as a social scene by the time I quit the Germs on April 1st, 1980. As soon as the South Bay Boys started coming to shows, everything shifted.
Wow.
Mock violence, pogo became real violence. I want to know part of that. So she was already married to him.
And Pee-wee does a famous scene with Lawrence Fishburne about pogoing. And they put on fake mohawks.
I saw that.
All the world is... It is a punk house.
It is a punk house.
A very whimsical punk house that probably smelled better than any real punk house.
Sure. So
many punk connections. There's probably more that we're not even scratching the surface of,
I mean, it could go deep, and I feel like it can continue on too, because then it's just like SNL and then John Belushi and Fear, mm-hmm. and like Fear was L.A.
Yeah,
you know?
From Phil Hartman to SNL to. Oh my gosh. What did they do at the end of Pee-wee's Playhouse? He like just got on his magical scooter and
He got on his scooter and zipped off and flew out of his house. And he flew through the clouds.
oh, that's right. Straight to the Simpsons beginning.
And the Simpsons connections do not stop there.
Oh my God. Can you imagine if we let's try to do some like methed out chart of like the Simpsons and Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Oh my God.
And SNL and punk rock. Let's go. Four quadrants.
This is the kind of geekery that I love.
We can start with 4 quadrants and they can just work inward.
Yeah.
With Paul Reubens in the middle.
Steely Dan will be like an extension.
Steely Dan, the guy on YouTube who made that freaky video, will be there.
This is one funky spider web.
Indeed. Beyond that, I guess listen to their next part of the show, which is the original episode where you get to learn a lot more about these people, right? What else do you have to say, Travis?
Really sad I never got to meet Pee Wee Herman or correspond with him in any sort of meaningful way, aside from just admiring him through a TV screen.
Yeah, me too.
But like that, those are, you don't think about your heroes until they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this was like one of those things, like kind of those revelations where it's like, you know what, this guy's shaped. Well, this is why I'm, like I like to think outside the box and do things in a kind of scrappy sort of way, and it's really special how he navigated all that and became, just so adored and respected for his work.
Absolutely. I think that says it all. Now listen about the album covers from Pee-wee's Playhouse adjacent artists. And thank you for joining me, Travis.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Clarita. It's really nice to talk about this stuff because it means a lot.
Yeah, it means so much.
Oh, and watch the Leslie Jordan episode, too. Okay.
Bye.
Today I wanted to talk about, me and Travis were texting the other day because we heard that there's finally going to be a Screamers release on vinyl. And
Superior
Viaduct is releasing it. And weirdly enough, I guess this is all unofficial stuff, but if you look up Gary Panter's Discogs, there are unofficial releases, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've been bootlegs for a long time.
Right.
But they all just sounded like crap because no one had their reel-to-reel.
Yeah. But yeah, it did have that kind of like Rocket from the Tombs, like mysterious, like there's no real recordings,
There was a mystique to it.
Yeah.
There was an image and everything to it that it was transformative at a time that it needed to occur, but that it just kind of has obliterated and just kind of been like talked about in circles and this thing of lore. I mean, I listened to the little 5-minute clip or whatever that they had, and it still sounded raw. It didn't take anything away from the music itself, but it sounded cool.
I pre-ordered the red vinyl.
Me too. I don't normally go for color or anything like that. I was like, whatever.
Well, now that I'm never going to DJ in a dark bar again, I guess, don't really need the black vinyl anymore.
No.
That's depressing. Let's talk about Gary Panter, because his career spanned so much time. His work's all over the place. He's worked for Ralph Records. First of all, he's from Texas. One of the most, well, according to this website, one of the most influential graphic artists of his generation. I would say that's true, even if you don't know his name. Earlier today, I was like, I'm going to look through my records and see how many I can find. I wonder how many I have with his art. And I looked up, and the Dirt Bombs We Have You Surrounded is facing me.
Yeah.
From my pile.
Yeah. When that record came out, I didn't even realize that Gary Panter did that record, or like the Yola Tango run, or
It's just
like
everywhere. It's like Barney Bubbles. Like, it's just everywhere. Or Hypnosis. He just did so much. So it's hard to find a collection that doesn't have anything, of his. So anyway, he was born in Oklahoma, and he was raised in Texas. He studied painting at East Texas State University, moved to LA in 1977. And in LA, he worked on multiple fronts, including painting, designing, comics, and commercial imagery, establishing a pattern of creating across traditional boundaries and in multiple media that endures to this day. Speaking of multiple media, obviously he was also interested in 3D spaces, because he went on to design Pee-wee's Playhouse. As well as his 2D work like Jimbo, the comic, which I've never read that. Have you read Jimbo?
No, I haven't.
I'm not really a comics person. I have my favorites. I don't look for new ones, and it's not really my.
I've been really bad with comics in general. Like I feel like I can't keep up. Mm-hmm. There's literature. There's all these other things that I'm trying to keep up with, and comics usually fall by the wayside.
Anyways, and there's a lot of crossover too with graphic novel artists and with record cover designers and artists. I wonder what was first. I can't quite tell the timeline.
Well, he was doing stuff with Slash Magazine, but it really kind of all seemed to be in the mid-70s, like out of LA. Screamers were 77, 78.
Yeah, it looks like it was New Wave Comics, the initiation of RAW, RAW, and then looks like that was one of the early ones.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Then, yeah, it was a newspaper. He was also featured in Rolling Stone magazine. So it looks to me like he was featured in a couple things and then started Jimbo's Inferno with Charles Burns. Have you seen some of the other stuff he did with Charles Burns?
No.
Oh, man. Amazing. I'll send you a link.
Okay.
There's this thing called Facetasm. It's amazing. But his style is so much more precise.
Well, because Panter's just so loose.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. But at this point, okay, so we're still in the 70s at this point. I'll go through the record list later when we get later in the story. So here's a funny story that he referenced in an interview I read that kind of shaped him as an artist and a person. So he says, back in 1972, he took a shitload of bad acid. Now, what is bad acid? Isn't it just acid, but you took too much?
Or just, yeah, maybe.
I wonder.
I feel like the alchemy of all that was kind of questionable, and probably people just took poison and felt miserable.
Maybe it hadn't been worked out, or it was some bathtub stuff. Yeah. So anyways, he said he had an experience that disturbed him so badly he had to leave school for a year. The memory of it still haunts him. And, quote, there'd be composite creatures made of vacuum cleaners, all kinds of devices. And then they'd be covered with thousands of roach clips, each holding a butterfly wing or a playing card. And they'd all be stop motion animated and going, come with us. This was not the organic and spiritual experience he had hoped for. Wow.
Yeah, that sounds kind of cool right now.
Another funny thing about his early life, his dad was a painter as well. I didn't look up his dad's artwork. I will, though. Maybe I'll put some up on the website. His dad was religious, but Gary Panter was not. And his dad thought that Panter's artwork was so disturbing that he tried to get him to snap out of it. Like he thought he was possessed or something, or that he could just like get over this weird demon phase he was going through.
Wow.
So he tried to get him to snap out of it by, he got him a job at the local funeral home. Like, how would that help a morbid child?
But pile it on.
Yeah, just pile it. Just like smoke the whole carton until you don't like it anymore. Or have some realization about God. I don't know, like kind of scared straight thing. So sometimes the job required Gary Panter to join the injured people on the ambulance ride to the hospital just in case the worst happened. So he had to be like the last rites person. But in those little towns, they lived like in the middle of Texas or like hours, from the next city. So he says in these little towns, the ambulance is also the funeral home because if there was a car wreck, we'd have an 80-mile drive to Dallas while people bled to death.
Wow.
So if you have a morbid child that you feel is not religious enough, put them around dying people. Just people bleeding to death right in front of them. That'll help them. Anyway, so then around, so then he kept doing artwork and he kept getting published. He did drawings for Slash magazine and numerous record covers. And then sometime around 1980, his Roz Talks Manifesto was published in the Ralph Records catalog, calling for artists to work within the capitalist system. Cool. So maybe as an aside, we could go over a couple quotes from that manifesto and give our takes on it of what we think.
Yeah.
What do you think? What's your favorite quote?
If you want better media, go make it.
That's good, but you left out the part where he sounds like Bill Maher. New rule. If you want better media, go make it.
Law. It's by law. Law. If you want better media, you go make it. I don't know.
Go make it, snowflakes. I don't know. It's obviously he was reactionary to the times, and it just sounds like he was the punk artist who got called out for making money and got angry and wrote an angry manifesto. And I'm surprised it's not in all caps, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's better that it's not. That just kind of suppresses the language a little bit, but it does just, it's that chain smoking through the night, tapping away on your typewriter, just like, yeah, I got this great idea.
I mean, it's obviously a reaction to being held to this punk rock standard of the day where you don't sell out, authenticity is king. We don't have that anymore. That's very Gen X, early Gen X. To be, you'd rather be dead than be a poser. You know what I mean? Or a sellout, which doesn't even exist because the economy is so much worse now that it's like, who cares? A ton of our friends have had songs and Netflix shows and whatnot. Like, I can't imagine holding that against someone right now. You know what I mean?
No. Every artist deserves to get paid for the work that they do, and if they make something that people want to buy, and good.
And so, even though I agree essentially with his overall message from this manifesto, the language and the tone is just the ultimate boomer cringe. I mean, he's just saying, it's like, get off my lawn. It's like, it is unfortunate and unacceptable what vile and lazy do-nothings are given unwarranted credence for mouthing such foul and mean cliches as rip-off and sellout. They have no understanding of our economy. Finger wagging. Yeah. I love that. And the time it takes society to go. Confess and shut up. Capitalism, good or ill, is the river in which we sink or swim. Inspiration has always been born of recombination. Stop having ideals. But also different times. Different times. And I think he's making that common mistake that a lot of people make where he's conflating business with capitalism. It's not about being anti-money. It's about being anti-exploitation of artists. So I don't know. There's problems I have with it also because I learned when I started doing design, even before I went to design school, I discovered the pretty much the opposite of this manifesto. It's Ken Garland's First Things First, and it's a pretty lofty one. I've mentioned it before in the podcast. I'm not going to go on and on about it, but you can look it up. It's basically like design is really powerful, and it's basically like, let's not limit ourselves to commercial work. Let's note the power that we have and that we can lend to making a real difference. And design and protest has always gone hand in hand. Politics and design have always gone together. Yeah, and so it's not naive to think that you could, like now with web design, you could give a cause legitimacy just by building an awesome website for them, a cause that maybe no one had heard of. So I don't know. I think both things are true. We have to survive as individual artists, but I also think that there should be idealism.
There's always something to work toward, in a positive way, and utilizing your talents in that way.
Another nerve that may have been hit with him, he was best friends with Matt Groening, and who was like the king of merchandising on The Simpsons, which, I mean, besides from like Butterfinger commercials, I didn't think it was that bad. I thought, I don't know, I mean, you make a show and then you make toys from it, I guess. I was a Matt Groening fan before The Simpsons, too. When I was a kid, we did have those books. His, like, Life is Hell.
Life is Hell.
Yeah, School is Hell, all those.
Yep.
I thought it was so funny. But
me too.
I was such a little kid that I didn't hold him to any stand. I just didn't get the context of it before he became commercially successful. So yeah, anyway, so he started to have some commercial success from his record covers, comic books, etc. But then he really, really hit it big with my favorite contribution to society he's made was Pee-wee's Playhouse design. Because didn't that, like, change your brain?
Yeah. I watched that every single week. There was so much to look at, and everything was, like, weird, obtuse, and acute angles. Just, like...
So it all started with Pee-wee's big adventure when he introduced the idea of the Rube Goldberg machine with his breakfast, even though you could tell the orange was a Nerf ball. But the fantastical house idea of, like, you don't have to live that way. Things can be fun. You can be an adult and have fun.
Even as a kid, though, I wondered who cleaned up after Pee-wee.
That is so funny. But yeah, so the fantastical indoors idea that you could have 3D space be art. And so that kind of brings us to one of the other album designers from the Pee-wee theme today, Wayne White, created puppets.
shit, I even did a puppet show when I was like 22 and 23.
I did a puppet show at the Seattle Art Museum. It was terrible. I mean, think about that weird floor face. Who would think of that? Billy Baloney, Conky. Conky was a person, by the way. That was an outfit.
Conky was.
There was someone in there. Yeah, that's why the arms are big. There's Polaroids of Wayne White standing with the guy that's in it, in the Conky suit. And then Randy, Dirty Dog.
Chicky Baby.
Who was the kite? What was his name with the little glasses? Mr. Kite. And Mr. Kite.
Terry.
Mr. Kite was voiced by Wayne White, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah. And then Terry, which Randy liked to call Terry just to make him mad because the P was silent. And if you look at Wayne White WayneWhiteArt.com/puppets, you can see all of this stuff. There's kind of like sketches and in progress sort of iterations of the puppets that aren't quite finished. It's pretty cool. And then there's also stuff that didn't make it onto the show. There's something called Dude Mask, which is really scary looking. It's like kind of a cubist Picasso style face that doesn't make sense, which I love. And all of this is painted cardboard, right? Or a lot of his stuff.
Yeah. You saw him at the art fair, right?
I did, and I got to pull on the strings.
Yeah, I did too.
For that. So for the listeners, Wayne White created giant cardboard puppet versions of 2 settlers from the Pacific Northwest. Who was it again? There were the sisters.
Yeah, I forgot what the sisters' names. It was
some pioneer settler ladies, but there were huge versions that he designed, and some friends of mine helped to build a few days before the Seattle Art Fair, and I guess stayed up all night. And I was like, why didn't you call me? I want to help. But I did get to meet him. He was playing his banjo, sitting in his chair next to the puppets, and I said hello. He was very nice, and I would love to have him on the show and ask him some stuff, since he did just recently design the new album cover for X, Alphabet Land.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really cool.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
I didn't know Wayne White did that one.
Oh, Google it. It's
awesome.
his classic thrift store painting / genius level 3D letter form stuff.
Oh.
It's like super nice. I love it. It's so perfectly done. A lot of people paint over thrift store paintings, but nobody does it like him. He also has a Discogs. Should we go over Discogs stuff? Gary Panter stuff? Because I know you referenced the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh, well, I mean, Red Hot Chili Peppers was my first tape. And I just remember seeing it and just being like, my brother doesn't have this. And having that association and this like punk kid like standing there with an engorged eyeball. You know, I was really, really young, and it was I borrowed my brother's Freaky Styley tape, and I was like, I need to get the album that he doesn't have. And so he had Freaky Styley, he had Uplift Mofo Party Plan. And I loved that cover so much. Yes. And I was just like,
awesome.
And those are the 2 Gary Panthers. Like,
yep.
And that was like, you know, my first tape. That was, you know, this album that meant a lot to me at a young age. You know, I was a little skate kid.
The Uplift Mofo Party Plan. I love what he did with typography. It's irreverent.
And characters, just characters like that. That is so much. There's just these little tiny details. It's so colorful, and
it's colorful. There's drawing over painting, and that to me blew my mind because I never thought of doing a whole painting and then a separate drawing over it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then the other one was Freaky Styley.
Yeah, he didn't do. I don't know if he did. I don't think he did that one.
But he did the eponymous record.
It was the first record. Yeah, it was like their self-titled. True men don't kill coyotes.
True Men Don't Kill Coyote. I forgot about that.
Oh, he was doing stuff in this, like, it was like Zappa, and then with all like the Ralph and San Francisco stuff.
You're right. Okay, so the first one is called Doc and Merle Watson, Lonesome Road, from 1977. Then he designed an Alice Coltrane record.
What?
For Warner Brothers, and that is from 1976. Why is it out of order? But this one, it's gorgeous. It's not his normal style. It's not a drawing. It's definitely looks designed. There's a gorgeous photo of her. He has a ornate frame around her. There's a lotus. It's sort of a Buddhist feeling. There's a lot of orange happening. Yeah. It's just a nice, peaceful-looking record. Very cool. And then you get into 78 for Frank Zappa, Studio Tan. And then you get to Subterranean Modern, which is a great compilation on Ralph.
I have that one right here. I was just looking at it.
You do? Where they all do a version of Left My Heart in San Francisco.
Yeah.
That's great. Very weird. And then,
well, like Chrome was supposed to be on Ralph Records, but they were just kind of going back and forth apparently, and so they went somewhere else.
So then the Snake Finger record, I love that. It's I think that's an EP, the What Wilbur. That's such a good song. Kill the Great Raven, not my favorite. Yeah, more Frank Zappa. There's so many records. There's no way I can put them all on my on my website.
A record that I had been looking for 15 years was Ronaldo and the Loaf. Or no, it was probably about 10 years that it took me to finally find it.
The Songs for Swinging Larva?
Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't have any idea what this band sounded like until the internet finally came around and I was able to download a couple songs. But I was just like hunting for this record for whatever 10, 15 years because I heard it in a song by this band called Heavy Vegetable. They were just like the bands you don't hear playing on the radio, and I was like, who's Ronaldo and the Loaf? Who's Can? Like, kind of like, who's really is Captain Beefheart? You know, like they just listed all of these things that I didn't really know anything about, but Ronaldo and the Loaf was one that, like, I was like, I need to hear what this is.
Yeah, I heard them first on, I heard that song Sprat's Medium first on a mixtape. Kind of you. I wish I could play music through here that we could hear in real time, you know? Yeah. It'd be cute.
It's wild how when you see between all of the things, like some things are a lot like heavier, like color heavy, and others like have like a, you know, 3-tone, or he kind of shifts it between the two, like with the Dirt Bombs record. Like I was looking at Ronaldo and the Loaf and just being like, oh, how did I not see the Dirt Bombs like immediately? But it was the same cover. It's a record that if I were to see it, I would immediately know what it was. Yep,
and it's kind of the like with Pettibon, like you can tell right away. But it is weird that he does switch back and forth to the 2-tone, 2-color, or a million colors.
Yeah.
That he's kind of all over the place in a way. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a favorite. I think his work is best kind of all together as a collection. You can kind of see because he did have such a moody style. And he did collaborate with people a lot. So he had a lot to offer, I think. He's still alive. Jesus. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Gary Panter.
What else? The kind of, he did the Pee Wee graphic too.
Yeah.
That little painting.
When it was just a stage show, he did all like the flyers, the record, kind of like the iconic throwing this like very it felt very like childish and crayon scrawled. Like everything was perfect about it, creating this like youthful space with different artists and stuff.
Did he design the stage show? Is that what you said?
No. Like with the promotional merchandise,
Promotional materials, but I'm just wondering if he also had something to do with the.
I mean,
that.
It seems like he probably would have in some capacity. Because
it does. So so he did Pee Wee, but another thing, we mentioned the Screamers, but I think what I knew him best for, besides Pee Wee, secondly, would be, besides Pee Wee and Red Hot Chili Peppers, would be the Screamers logo, which was it looks like a Lion-O cut, perhaps. I should know that. I just assumed it was, but right when I said it right now, I'm like, I'm not 100% sure.
It has like its simplicity to it, like it's mostly asymmetric.
It's like opposite, like a yin yang almost.
And that's the thing, is because it's like, it's so like there's nothing about that image that is quiet. It's so just like, it's striking. You're just like, oh God, what kind of metamorphosis is he going through, like, into a superpower?
But then you see Tomata, and it really looks like him. I mean, it's exaggerated, but it really does, and it captures the angst and, I don't know, the kind of that raw sound that we were talking about earlier. Screamers or Tomata do plenty. Paul Roessler, KK Barrett, Bill Rieflin, Eldon Hoke, which I don't know much about. Some other people, they were rooted in the Northwest, right? Because he was in...
It started here.
So the original lineup of the Tupperwares included Tommy Gear. At the time, he was Melba Toast and Tomata Duplenty and Rio de Janeiro on vocals, backed by Pam Lillig and Ben Witz, later of Girls, as well as Bill Rieflin. And then later of Blackouts, who I love, one of my favorite bands of all time, and Ministry, another one of my favorites.
And Lard.
Yeah, so a lot of great history there before he went to L.A., some Pacific Northwest history. The Tupperwares played up here with the Whiz Kids and the Telepaths, stuff like that. So
it must have been just so cool. Wild to tour in that time and come to Seattle, like where you're like, whoa, we have to go all this way up. This way to go this way. So
yeah, but weren't some of them here though?
Yeah,
already.
Phil Hartman was here.
This is 75. Yeah, so this was at the beginnings. And it's funny because things were way weirder and then got tamer during the grunge era, but that's what we're known for. So that's pretty much the legacy of Gary Panter. Kind of cringy, kind of great, all over the place, tons of work. Take what you like, leave the rest type of deal. If you're not familiar with them, again, it'll be on my website, some different examples, but and I'll have a link to his Discogs artist page so you can check out all the records he's done over the years and see. I bet you've got at least one in your collection. Then we went over Wayne White, which I will hopefully be able to talk to someday. And then I wanted to go over my last Pee Wee's Playhouse sort of adjacent artist, the third person on the show who did album art. Kap'n Karl, obviously, was played by Phil Hartman. You may know him from such shows as The Simpsons, as Troy McClure, and... News Radio. What else, Travis?
Saturday Night Live. He was always just there in utility and ready to do anything.
He was like the most hilarious straight man ever in comedy, don't you think? That was like the weirdest, most unique skill of straight man sort of role, but so funny in his own right that he kind of took over and upstaged the sillier people, I think. So not many people know that I guess when he was trying to make his way into the comedy and show business industry, he was a professional graphic designer who designed a bunch of album covers. So I have, if you have that link I sent you, there's a few here. The first band is Poco. Is the name of the band Poco? I guess from 1974. Do you know that record?
I don't think I've ever really listened to Poco, and like I don't know, when I saw it, I didn't even realize that record existed before today.
Okay. I mean, there's no shame. Like, I don't know who that is either.
Yeah.
Some of these bands are not great.
Yeah.
So the next one is from 1979, America, which it looks like he took a photo. It was like a treated photo, although I don't see the rest of the packaging here. These are just the covers and some typesetting. Then he does another album in 77 for America called Harbor. I gotta say, it's dated. It's dated. Do you see the Crosby, Stills, Nash one he did?
Yeah.
Folks.
Celtic symbol or Irish symbol.
Okay, it looks like a cross between a sports logo and a Celtic knot.
Yeah.
The lettering looks maybe pixelated of the words. I don't know. That's probably my least favorite thing I've seen today. Then he does another album called The Fire Sign Theater Fighting Clowns.
Yeah, they were a comedy troupe.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
My dad had their records.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it good?
I mean, I didn't really understand it because it was just like young 20-something hippie comedy.
It's a painting. I'm sure he didn't do the painting. He probably did color correction and did typesetting for this. But it's a painting. There's a sun and a moon. It's a war, like maybe a Vietnam War scene with a boxing match happening and a bunch of protesters that this evil clown is walking on, wearing a war helmet. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And what's that in the background? There's like a stage with
There's like a walrus or something. Like,
oh, is it a dinosaur? There's two of them. There's another one.
Is that Lady Liberty in a barrel of whiskey or beer?
Probably. There's also a rocket launch happening behind the White House.
That's good.
Saying it out loud, there's a lot. There's also a desert. Anyways, that was from 1980. Then another one. Oh, well, these are not in order. There's another America's Greatest Hits. Another Poco. This one has the horse on it.
The horse, I've picked up that record so many goddamn times.
I recognize that one. It has red eyes. And then the Steely Dan. How would you say that? The name of that Steely Dan record?
Asia.
I'll listen to some SD from time to time.
I mean, it's fine, but I'm just like, oh god, like, I don't know. There's something about it that just kind of bugs me. I don't know what it is.
It's got a slight Jimmy Buffett quality to where just a sprinkle.
But that record's so iconic too. You know, like it's like you see that everywhere.
Deacon Blues is on it.
Mm.
So would you ever have thought that album was Phil Hartman?
No.
That Phil Hartman designed that? It's so weird. What a weird overlapping of like 80s trivia.
Yeah.
Did we already answer the question that I ask everyone? What was the first record cover you remember when you were a kid?
Probably Cinderella Night Songs.
Ooh.
because my brother had that record. And I remember it just being so the total opposite of what was in. It was like my brother had that one record, and then it was the rest of my parents' records.
So in this album cover, they are standing in an alley, looking pretty tough. What did you think about what did you think about that when you saw that when you were a kid?
I really just kind of like the purple color in the background. I had never seen something like that, and like my brother dressed up as a member of Rat for Halloween one year, and my mom made little like leopard print pants and like cut little holes in them, and he was wearing running shoes. He didn't have the boots, but still like had this like wig, and it like he went Tommy Lee and put like a
under eye black.
An under eye black.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do a shitty cover in your room. Of something. Of some
I definitely have.
something.
I definitely have a terrible wig and some tight black pants that don't fit me anymore. So yeah, that was the first record. The first one that I really remember.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list from that record though, and I can't say I recognize a single song on here. But I'm going to give it a listen after we're done here. I don't know how to end a show because everything is so bleak.
We will see you again. Or talk to you again. Fingers crossed.
This is the day of the expanding man. That shape is my shape, that's where I used to stand. It seems like only yesterday I get through the glass at ramblers, while gamblers, that's all in the past. You call me a fool, you say it's a crazy scheme. This one's for me, I already got the dream. So useless to ask me why, throw a kiss and say goodbye.